Let's go over to UCLA, and what are we expecting from the year two of this regime here, Tom?
Yeah, from one team that will be sniffing the college football playoff to one that probably will not. Nothing against UCLA, but 2024 finished 5-7, 3-6 in the Big Ten, lost 5 straight games early in the season to Indiana, at number 16 LSU, home versus number 8 Oregon, at number 7 Penn State versus Minnesota. Very difficult year for UCLA, their first year in the Big Ten, plus all the extended travel that comes with that. They ripped off 3 straight wins of the Big Ten play against Rutgers, Nebraska, both those on the road, and then at home against Iowa. Last 3 weeks of the season were all West Coast, a loss at Washington, loss versus USC, and a win versus Fresno State. They've done something similar with their schedule this year, and that they've got basically it bookended, and that the opening part of the season is mostly West Coast, and the back end of the season is mostly West Coast. Season opener is going to be against Utah. First 3 games all out west, as I mentioned. Utah at UNLV, which we'll see what that looks like under Dan Mullen. So that's not necessarily a gimme considering they played the last few years. UNLV has been pretty stout. And then Nevada to round that out. Then they get Penn State on October 4th at home, at Indiana November 8th, at Ohio State November 15th. Last 2 games are versus Washington and at USC, so that is going to help them a little bit. Their travel is really the challenge for them. All these teams that came from the Pac-12 and joined the Big Ten have been dealing with that aspect, and if you're Oregon and or USC and you have extended resources, maybe a little bit better situation in that department, it's going to make that a little bit easier. Key returns. Running back Jalen Berger is somebody I'm going to be paying very close attention to. I think very highly of his game, what he was able to do at Michigan State and Wisconsin. He's proved to be a reliable starting running back. TJ Harden went into the transfer portal. So Jalen Berger, if he is truly the guy, the bell cow, I think that's a really nice plug and play under DeShaun Foster at head coach there. Wide receiver Titus Mokiao Atimalala is back. Center Sam Yoon, offensive tackle Garrett DiGiorgio, defensive lineman, a lot of returning contributors, especially along that defensive line. Keanu Williams, Siala Talapaki, Devin Awipiu, and linebacker Jalen Woods. Then at transfers, the transfer portal, this is where it's going to be interesting because Ethan Garbers is headed off to the NFL draft. So it is a true competition at quarterback. However, there is a lot of expectation that quarterback Joey Aguilar and his buddy at wide receiver Caden Robinson from Appalachian State, that could be a plug-and-play combination for the Bruins. Also coming in via the transfer portal, wide receiver Mikey Matthews from Cal, offensive tackle Julian Armella from Florida State. Thank you very much, TJ. Offensive tackle Cortland Ford from Kentucky, and an interior offensive lineman Eugene Brooks from Oklahoma. There's more Sooner blood in this, and I'll get to in a minute, but 20 total transfers in, 8 of them were at defensive back, 11 total on defense. This is a team that did struggle defensively last year, so they're going to need some help, and a lot of departures on the defense in this cycle. Key departures, as I mentioned, there was players that transferred in, departures that are important. TJ Harden, as I mentioned. Justin Martin off to Maryland at quarterback, back up to Ethan Garbers. I talked about him when we previewed the Terrapins. I think Justin Martin was a very big-time prospect for them coming out of Inglewood, California. That made a lot of sense. He is out, so it's going to be a positive situation for the Terrapins. Wide receiver Logan Loya off to Minnesota. The aforementioned J. Michael Sturdivant is a Florida Gator at wide receiver to the NFL. Their number 1 tight end, Moliki Matavao. Linebacker Carson Schwessinger was the best player they had on the defense last year, in my opinion, by far. Linebacker Kane Medrano, Ethan Garbers, as I talked about, and the defensive backs, as I talked about. There's going to be a lot of turnover. KJ Wallace, Brian Addison, Kalen Moore, and Ramon Henderson. There are going to be a lot of people to replace. 19 commits in their 2025 class, which was ranked 46 nationally. So I am encouraged by this regime because it's kind of gone up incrementally over the last few years. The 2024 class was 68th nationally, 2025 class 46th nationally, 2026 class is currently 28th nationally and 8th in the Big Ten. And the interesting thing about this program as a whole is that was the primary issue with Chip Kelly when he was the head coach very briefly and then left, as we all know, went to be the offensive coordinator for the now reigning national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes last year. Chip Kelly didn't necessarily want to recruit. There were also questions about what was going to be the NIL dedication from this athletic department to football. It seems like, at least on the recruiting front, they know their lane. They're sticking to the guys that they can go get out of California. Running back Carson Cox from from Oak Hills, in California, is a 4-star, the lone 4-star in this class. The rest are 3-stars, but they've done a really nice job in sticking to California. 4 DBs and 4 edges, all from California. For me, a lot of this season, yes, they have a lot of pieces to replace on defense, and they have to be better on defense, period. But the quarterback competition, will there be a credible starter that emerges? The defense is going to potentially have 7 new starters, most of them in the secondary. There's a really big chance that this team is a 5-7 squad again, but I could also see them just narrowly becoming bowl eligible at 6-6, 5-7. It just kind of depends on how some of these middle of the road Big Ten games go. I mentioned some of the Oklahoma blood. My breakout player for this team is safety Key Lawrence. It's been up and down, and Cole's probably familiar with him in that. Had a solid 2023 at OU, 44 total tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. Transferred to Ole Miss for 2024, couldn't crack the starting lineup, played in 4 games, redshirted so that he could play his last season elsewhere. He has a chance to start and be a big contributor for UCLA within the Big Ten. And the X factor for me, again, it's quarterback. If it's Joey Aguilar from App State, he had over 3,000 yards passing last year. Completion percentage, 56%. Nothing really to write home about. 24 touchdowns through the air, 13 interceptions, chipped in with 2 rushing touchdowns. And then Caden Robinson, 54 catches, 840 yards, and 2 touchdowns from the aforementioned Joey Aguilar. So is that the answer? Is it leaning on Jalen Berger, considering this is DeShaun Foster's team? He's going to want to have a bigger emphasis on the running game. That was evident last year with TJ Harden and running back by committee at times. So it's kind of a wait and see situation with UCLA. But right now I feel like they do seem to be trending in the right direction under DeShaun Foster.
Let's talk about 2 things real fast. You already mentioned Joey Aguilar, and I get it. Last season, there was complete underwhelmingness, led to the firing of Sean Clark. It brought in Dowell Loggins. He's now in Boone, North Carolina. But you got to remember back in 2023, this was a guy that had a 63% completion rating. He had 33 touchdowns. He's going to be an interception guy, but the reason why is because of he's averaging 450 pass attempts in a season. So the numbers are going to be up. He still had a passer rating both years of over 135. So my question for you would be, what's the leash for Joey Aguilar? Is it simply, hey, you got to start off really hot, we got to be able to maybe get that upset win? Or is it, we are having an open competition, you came here because of you weren't welcome in Dowell Loggins' offense anymore, so we got to make a switch? Like, is that the feel you think, or is it more so, we're going to give you every opportunity to prove why you're not the guy?
So for me, watching this team last year, and granted, it's a change because you saw
Sure.
Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator last year. So definitely more of
They
a
brought in
profile.
Sincere, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like Sincere, I don't expect it to be something crazy in terms of a departure. Like Bieniemy, I really don't know what the hell happened there and why he's bounced around as much as he had, considering the success he had in the National Football League. But I digress. Sincere being more of a pro-style quarterback throughout his career, played at Pitt, number of stops in the National Football League. I kind of expect this to be another quarterback-friendly system in that it's not going to be all on Joey Aguilar to necessarily be the catalyst for this offense. And you saw this last year. Ethan Garbers was a competent starting quarterback. Was he going to light the world on fire? No, but he kept things on track. Justin Martin provided that spark when he came in when Garbers had some injuries last year. So I expect them to want to showcase Jalen Berger and other running backs because they did that well last year. The offensive line also has a lot of turnover in terms of transfers coming in. So 2 returning guys that you feel confident about, but competition now during spring practices and training camp. I expect it to be something that they're not asking Aguilar to put the ball in the air 30, 35, 40 times a game. I think that would be a misstep by DeShaun Foster. And again, this is more of a pro-style team, period. They want to run the football well and play good defense. So they ripped off some interesting wins last year. They win against Iowa, surprised a lot of people. And especially you can beat a team of that caliber, that discipline, you're trending in the right direction. It's a little program building thing, I think, for UCLA. So do I expect them to break out this season or within the next 3 years necessarily under DeShaun Foster? You know, time will tell. Can they stack recruiting classes? But at least with Aguilar this year, if he emerges as the guy, there's a lot of young competition at quarterback, then they could be setting him up for success. And it's like, hey, hand the ball off and we'll take care of you on the back end.
I have a theory, and I don't want to bring this up because I like UCLA, and I think that UCLA should be viewed as a more prominent program just in college football because of what it is out in the West Coast. But you've already mentioned NIL, and it feels a lot like Arkansas. There's NIL funds, but it's going to baseball, it's going to basketball, it's going to our other sports where we feel confident we're going to compete, we're going to be able to be in the hunt for a national title, and every few years we're going to win one. If that becomes the thing for UCLA, and DeShaun Foster is able to take this team to 7-5, just 7-5 for 3 straight years, does he start to become a name that is a hot commodity for other coaching jobs? And then because of that, you realize that the resources aren't there, the allocation of funds aren't there. So why is a absolutely up and coming group of 5 head coach going to consider a place like UCLA?
It's so funny how a year ago everybody was bagging on this guy because of Big Ten Media Day, and that
Yeah.
didn't seem like he was ready for the role. And granted, Chip Kelly went out. It all happened very quickly, and getting DeShaun Foster felt like, well, he played here. He's a legend here. He's a legend in the National Football League. So it just kind of fit the program. But I think there were people nationally and locally who were like, this might be a 1-year like interim type of feel. And it just didn't feel like that by the back end of the season. He understands the team. He understands the culture. He understands the area. I think that's really important. Like I mentioned, getting guys locally from California, you're in that hotbed. You need to dedicate more in NIL because there's such fierce competition locally and nationally for that talent. If you can get that homegrown talent to stay and get developed there, and you're DeShaun Foster, you're like, I'm with my school. He could want more, of course. You're within the Big Ten. You're in a pretty good situation, all things considered. You're in one of the best recruiting beds in the country. This is kind of like playing EA college football, and you start a dynasty with Kennesaw State because they're in Atlanta, and you're like, oh, great, this will work out. It's better than that. I'm exaggerating, but still, you're in a good situation with UCLA. And if they can dedicate a little bit more to football than they would for basketball and baseball, as you mentioned, that would really help them. But DeShaun Foster, I think it's only now that it's going to take a year or two, I think, for people to really be like, we should go grab this guy. Thanks for checking out this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're looking for more college football stuff, we've got it right here on College Football Addiction. Thanks for tuning in.